I'm Alexis. I am very grateful that I have a career thanks to you all, because truly without social media, without the open internet, Steve Huffman and I, we probably would have never started Reddit. I would be a lawyer. Think about that. No, there are a lot of awesome lawyers. Wow, okay, wow, all right, sorry. A little early to start with the lawyer jokes, everyone. But I'm very, very grateful, because that's all I know, right? My entire life since college has been startups, it's been tech. And I'm probably best known for co-founding Reddit, but I've been involved in launching other companies, Social Enterprise, Breadpig, Travel Search, Hitmonk. But most recently, while I was doing investing and thinking about sort of bigger picture stuff, some folks in Washington wanted to destroy everything that I held so dear. And I decided, let me try politics. And fortunately, it's worked out okay. And that's because not really so much of what Reddit did or what Twitter did or what Wikipedia did, but what a bunch of Americans did. And looking forward now, since the blackout day, since the time a bunch of Americans said they could actually defeat $94 million in lobbying with a bunch of phone calls, because hey, democracy still works, we've looked at ways to push this message forward, not just say reactively, these awful bills need to be thwarted, but to say proactively, we're a generation that cares so much about this internet. How much do we care? You need to know, as our elected official, that you represent a digital district. You may not think about it that way, but you need to, because you have constituents, every single one of them, unless they work for a couple of lobbies, who care so much about preserving this. So how do we show this, right? I'm a startup person. I don't want to talk about stuff. I want to do stuff. And so I talked to one of my fellow peers, Eric Martin, general manager of Reddit, and we decided to get a bus. Of course, we crowdfunded this bus on the internet, because that's what we do, and we took a bus that was literally half red and half blue. Now that symbolism means something, right? Because we had a very bipartisan group against SOPA and PIPA. We've seen a response to this that crossed party lines and did things that people said couldn't be done in Washington, because it turns out all Americans, regardless of their political stripes, care about internet freedom. But we want to see just how much. And we wanted to let them speak for themselves, because it's one thing for me to be like, Americans care. It's another thing for you to hear about them. So we planned it out. Eric brilliantly noticed that the first presidential debate was in Denver, Colorado, and the vice presidential debate was in Danville, Kentucky. And we thought, you know what, that crisscrosses a huge swath of America, the heartland, right, the Midwest. Let's take this bus, let's take a half dozen journalists, and let's bring our own documentary crew and just meet people. Let's talk to the innovators, let's talk to the farmers, let's talk to the automotive companies, let's talk to the students, let's talk to all the people we can about what they feel about internet freedom. And it turns out, literally every person we talked to, I mean, I'm talking about truckers in rest stops, once we explained what that silly bus parked out front was all about, said they were down, said they wanted to know that the internet would stay free, that it wouldn't get ruined by either big business or big government, and that they knew what an important resource it was. But what we didn't expect was that we would meet people, we would meet farmers like a dude in Richmond, Missouri, okay, who are doing more than 90% of their sales through the internet and yet only check their email 2 or 3 times a week. Now, when a farmer like Tom, who works with a startup called Ag Local, it's sort of a marketplace for meat, tells us that he only checks his email 3 times a week and he's not an internet person, but yet he knows that that has radically transformed the way he produces and sells meat, like that shows something. That shows us that this really matters. And it doesn't just matter to a few hipsters starting the next photo sharing website, it matters to all Americans. So we chronicled all these stories, we put them together, and the team at Nimblebot actually did a brilliant job producing a short documentary, which we're going to debut in Washington next Tuesday at the museum. I hope you all will be there. It'll be a lot of fun. And what we hope this does is continue to spread that message a little further, because we know how much the internet matters to all Americans, and it's a matter of making sure our elected officials know that too. And we can't just keep phone bombing them every time something awful happens. They need to know this proactively. So that was step 1. Step 2 was a personal battle of mine, because a soul legend named Lester Chambers was literally robbed for decades by the music industry. He was a member of the Chambers Brothers. I would play some of their music for you, but I'm worried if I played it for too long, I might get sued. But if you know Time Has Come Today, and you'll Google it later if you don't, you've heard it. He produced, hits for decades. But because of a bad contract, the record companies basically said, you're screwed. And so today he's poor. And he took a photo of himself just months after we defeated SOPA and PIPA, posted it on Facebook. It front paged on Our Music, a subreddit of music fans. And millions of people saw it and said, this is exactly what we're talking about. This is exactly what we're trying to do with innovation online. We're trying to cut out this middleman that has historically taken advantage of artists. And actually, it turns out the internet does a great job connecting artists directly to their fans and letting them get paid for their work. And so at a time when we were hearing, oh no, we're fighting for artists' rights, we thought, no, let's here's a symbol. Lester Chambers is a symbol of just how little you actually care about artists' rights and just how much the open internet can solve that problem. So again, we like doing things, we don't like talking about it. So I pitched Lester Chambers, which was kind of insane. And he very graciously got on a call with me and I said, listen, we'll just put together a Kickstarter campaign and you'll fund your next album online and you'll own it entirely. Well, I'm proud to say Lester's time has finally come. The campaign is about 15 hours left and we've raised $60,000, actually a little over 60 grand. Feel free to contribute and be a part of music history. So here's a guy, Lester Chambers, who, again, like I said, for decades had been robbed by the music industry and has now been able to use a platform I think we all know pretty well at this point, Kickstarter, which is still just the beginning of innovation, just the beginning, it's only a few years old, and is able to now create an album that he himself entirely owns, and that's cash money that belongs to him, to no one else. And so here are two great examples, right, of just how much this platform means, not just to artists, not just to everyday Americans, whether they're farmers or students or entrepreneurs, all of us. And so we took it one more step further, and this is the thing that I hope to talk about with you guys next year, because we're going to do it sometime this year. One of the ideas that came about on this bus tour in true internet fashion happened at a meetup in Boulder, fabulous startup community. Turns out innovation is not limited to Silicon Valley. I hope we all know this. I want to break that meme once and for all. And a number of folks said, we need to actually we already have our elected officials on speed dial. I'm sorry, but that's the thing now. We all have the iPhone app that lets me, within a button, within one click, call my representative and my senators. That's the first step, right? Because they're our employees. The next step is let's make sure that they know who to talk to when they've got a question about some internet-related issue. And so we thought more and more about this and realized, you know what the perfect solution is? It is a flash mob on Washington. Now, this will be a very polite, very well-scheduled flash mob. Everyone will make an appointment on the same day with their representative and their senators and hopefully represent every district in this country as we all descend on Washington in a very geeky but polite way with a very specific list of asks. We can probably use the internet to figure out what those asks will be. I hear it's pretty good at coordinating large groups of people. And actually all just show up, make our demands, be a face that cares about internet freedom from literally every district in the country. And then afterwards, we'll probably play Settlers of Catan. If you've got enough geeks in Washington, you might as well have a little fun with it, right? But if we can take this another step further and actually know that they have someone in the back of their heads whose lives, whose livelihoods, whose education, whose innovation they don't want to stifle, they will think twice the next time some internet bill comes across their desk because they know someone in their district who is going to be affected by it if they make the wrong decision. And best case scenario, if they make the right decision, if they proactively start supporting laws that actually help promote innovation in this country, that actually do really proactive things to help us hire the best people we need to help us have the freedom to not be squashed by extortionary patent trolls, to put copyright in a place that the founding fathers actually intended it to be, where it promoted innovation as opposed to stifling it. Perhaps we can get even more awesome innovation that, as you've heard earlier, not only starts here, but stays here. And the final note that I will leave you on, because again, I'm a total startup person, think about this internet economy right now, and do not limit yourself to Facebook and to Twitter or even Reddit for that matter, because the internet is affecting literally every industry. And I told you about the farmer earlier, Tom in Missouri. My favorite example is a company called Local Motors, who we also met on that road trip. Now, I'm pretty open-minded when it comes to how much the internet can affect things. But when I met this company, I learned that this is an auto manufacturer based entirely in the United States, which is already a pretty awesome story, okay? Again, auto manufacturer based entirely in the United States that does all of their design on the internet. They crowdsource all of their design components, all thanks to the internet. This company would not exist if it were not for an open internet. So if you don't believe the internet isn't affecting everything, it is. And there are examples everywhere. So thank you. Thank you.